Welcome to No Room for Phonies. This is our 125th podcast. So we are really thrilled tonight to have our own financial advisor, Kyle Snowden, and he runs Snowden Financial. And we're just here tonight kind of talking about the amazing things that can happen if you're in your life if you have a financial advisor. How's that for an intro?
Well, I don't know. You're setting the bar pretty high.
Yeah. Well, we have had great luck with that. And so we just wanted to start out by just asking you, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself in terms of like your background and your passion and how you kind of ended up as a financial advisor, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess it probably started with my first job, which was just a paper boy, as many people's first jobs.
Our boys too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's sort of how I got interested in saving and growing money. So even though it was, just a paper route, I did quite well in terms of setting aside money each month. And I think, every week I would go and I had to pay my paper bill at this point in time. So I used to go down to the bank and give them all the change that I had collected so I could keep the nice, crisp bills. And I would store it in a box in one of my drawers. And I managed to get it up to a couple $1,000, which was not too bad I was maybe around, 11 or 12 or so at this point in time.
Did you have any guidance on like what percent you're allowed to spend or what percent you should withhold, or did you just hold on to all of it?
No, it was my business. So I was in charge of how I wanted to save and spend the money, but I found I enjoyed saving it more than spending it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got it up to once I got it up to a couple $1,000s, I think my dad says that I saw a commercial on TV for Canada Savings Bonds. So I brought down a stack of money and told my dad, hey, I'd like to get some Canada Savings Bonds. And so he took me down to the bank, and I think that was my first investment. So that's probably where my interest in sort of the financial industry began. I don't think I really knew what a financial advisor was or what a financial advisor did or anything like that, even through high school. But I did maybe figure that I was going to end up somewhere in some type of business involving money and savings and things like that. And so when I went into university, I enrolled in the business program at Laurier because, again, I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go exactly. I figured enrolling in business kind of keeps you open to a lot of different possibilities.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when I was in the business program there, I did focus on some of the financial courses, and there was a personal financial planning course that I took there. So I think I started to narrow my focus a little bit. I still don't think I really understood the role of a financial advisor. And even coming out of university, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I took some time to, look at what other people were doing and look at the different options and opportunities that were out there. And then I did eventually decide to take a go at becoming a financial advisor.
That's great. And so you just kind of experimented with it from a passion that came from your whole life. You felt that way, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always liked saving money. So I thought maybe I'd
be good at it.
Other people do it as well, I guess.
No, that's great. I think that's really, and it explains a lot about your kind of the person that you bring to the table. I mean, we've experienced that firsthand with you, that you really are like concerned about helping people live their best financial life, because that's important, right? So,
Yeah, I think so. If it can relieve some of the day-to-day stress of money management out of your life, then you can focus on other things. And even just, as people move into retirement, then it becomes more of coaching people to how much fun they can have in retirement,
yes,
how much they can spend,
exactly.
because you want to find the right balance of removing the money stresses, but also, you've saved your whole working career to get to retirement. You shouldn't hold back if you've reached your goals and you can afford to do things. Then you want to encourage people to spend some of their money in retirement as well.
Right.
Exactly. And I mean, I guess from my experience listening to people, um, I'm I am so aware now of how little a lot of people understand about their own financial management. And
So that kind of leads
leads
to
to the next thing,
our
like
next question.
when when we have tried to tell people how important it is to have a financial advisor, like if you were giving a lecture or seminar, what would you say to somebody to kind of, I know it's kind of your job, so you don't want to, say, wow, you better hire me, but it's kind of, why is it important for people to have that? You sort of started down that line. Retirement is one reason for sure.
Yeah. And I just think the sort of financial landscape is always getting a bit more and more complex as well. So, there's all different types of investment accounts here that you can open in Canada. For example, it could be, RSPs, spousal RSPs, LIRAs, RESPs, TFSAs. Now we have first home savers accounts. So just really staying on top of all the different types of investment accounts that are available to you, understanding which one is best for you, and looking at your own personal income tax rate and taking that into account when you're choosing the type of investment account that is best for you, and making sure that you're um, that you've structured things so that, many people, for example, end up in retirement with all of their investments in taxable accounts. So they're all of a sudden they're getting a work pension and Canada pension and old age security. And then they want to take money out to buy a car and they realize, oh, all the money that I have is in a taxable account. I've got to take, an extra $40,000 out of my investments to be left with 23,000 after tax so that I can purchase a new vehicle, for example. So,
Yeah.
it's just really to help set yourself up for success down the road, I guess would maybe be
Yes,
when I
absolutely.
summarize it. Yeah.
And what do you think the role of the financial advisor is when it comes to, say, like younger? Is it the same for, if you get a person, say, who's smart enough to get a financial advisor when they're in their early 20s and they kind of have their first job? Does it feel different for you than like talking to people like us who are closer, to the other end of the spectrum, the retirement part?
Yeah, everybody's going to have different needs depending on their life stage. But in both those scenarios, there are some common things that you're going to want to look at. I mean, one is just simply looking at budgeting, so money in and money out, and whether you're in your early 20s, just starting your career, and maybe you've got school debt or you're saving for your first home or something like that. You want to look at the budget on what's coming in, what's going out, and what's available for savings, and then how to allocate those goals. And some of those transition over to, people that are in retirement. So now you've got different sources of income, but we still want to look at what's coming in, what's going out, what's left each month or where you need to draw from your investments in order to have enough income to cover those expenses. So on a cash flow perspective, there's a lot of similarities. Of course, from the investment side of things, people in retirement are generally going to have, more investable assets. So there might be more discussion about the underlying investments in their portfolios, whereas someone just starting out, you're just trying to get the ball rolling and work towards building that up. So that will be, something that you manage a little bit more in depth down the road, I guess.
And I think you're kind of leading into the sort of discussion around you don't really have to have a lot of money in order to have a financial advisor.
Correct. I guess that it depends. It depends on the financial advisor that you approach.
Sure,
So,
yes.
there.
In your case, though, I know that obviously a financial advisor makes their money from investments. I get that. Like, you don't want everybody to, but you are not unwilling to help people who maybe
are learning the financial literacy and
don't have
planning,
maybe a ton of money.
Yeah. I mean, me, myself, I usually tell people I'm open to having a conversation with anybody. So especially if, let's say one of my clients, for example, has children that are just starting to get into the workforce and they're looking for advice, I'm certainly happy to speak with anybody who is interested in learning. And, where it goes from there just sort of depends on their plans and motivation. And I'm happy to connect with somebody and give them direction and send them to do things on their own if that's what they're comfortable with, especially, many younger people now, there are a few more options available these days in terms of, I guess, you call it robo-advising or self-directed accounts. Those are certainly an option, and they're the right thing for some people for sure. And if I can give somebody some advice on how to pursue that and they want to do it on their own, that's fine. If it's somebody that's motivated to work with somebody like myself, I can give them advice on how to get that started and what type of goals they should be setting in the short and mid and long term to get their plan up and running.
Go ahead.
And so as far as like the array of options that people have, like you just mentioned, the what did you call it?
A robo-advisor?
Oh, the robo-advisor. So, but there's also like independent advisors. There's companies that have like consultants as a group, as a team. In Canada, what are there any other options?
I guess your main options would be, sort of doing things on your own or online yourself, or you can work with an advisor. And in the advisor space, there is different options there as well. So if you're just starting out, you might work with, let's say, a bank branch employee. So most branches will have somebody in-house that's in that branch, and they would start working out with people that are just getting started. Or you can work with there's financial planning firms out there, so you might work, I don't know if you want me to say names or whatnot, just so
no, that's okay. Fine. No, just the idea that
so there would be advisors then that work for financial planning firms. That would be another option. And then there are what would be more independent financial advisors. So they're not tied to any investment company, and they have a little bit more, scope in terms of what they might be able to offer. So those would be the...
Okay. And is there a licensing body or professional body that people should look for as far as some kind of quality assurance or safety assurance, whatever?
Yep. So those bodies have merged. There used to be two separate bodies. There was the Mutual Fund Dealers Association that was responsible for people that were just certified to offer clients mutual funds. And then there and now that's been merged in with under one umbrella to CIRO, the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. And so everybody now, whether you just offer mutual funds or if you're licensed to offer what's called securities, so securities would include like individual stocks and bonds or exchange traded funds as well. There's now one governing body that is responsible for licensing, monitoring, and enforcing discipline against all licensed advisors in the industry now.
Okay,
That's good.
good. No, because like 30 years ago, I had friends that kind of chose retired church minister as a financial advisor, and it did not go well. So I don't know what he might have had that mutual fund designation, but anyway,
It wasn't
somebody.
It wasn't a great. The one thing I just want to clarify a little bit, just to talk about a bit. I mean, one of the things that you have certainly done for us, besides like helping us with investments that we had, is that you have helped us to really look carefully at our debt load and kind of, you know, make better decisions about when to put a lot of money aside and when to kind of pay something off and move forward. But a financial advisor and a debt counselor are not the same thing, I would say. Would you say that, or am I?
You're correct on that. So you probably want to work with a financial advisor before you're required to work with a debt counselor. So, and that's like financial advising is something that there's no point in your life really where you're mandated to work with a financial advisor.
Exactly.
So, if you compare it to even if you don't like going to the dentist, if you get a toothache or an infection, you'll have to go see a dentist. If your car breaks down, you have to go see a mechanic to get it fixed. But there's no point in time where you have to meet with a financial advisor. So it's always by your choice, really. And so if you're not good with your money management and you put it off and put it off and put it off, it might get to a point where the financial advisor really can't do much for you other than recommend that you look at debt counseling.
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to go, because I'm sure at some point, like, as a person trying to help somebody, you might have to say, look, there's nothing I can do for you at this time, but I can recommend that you get this, so
before you're close to bankruptcy, or
before you end up in
any closer.
I always like to try and give people what their next step should be, even if it's not something that I can do at myself at that point in time.
Yeah. And avoiding, I mean, I guess that, I was kind of thinking about why would you avoid having a financial advisor? Because it's not like I have to give you a ton of money up front, right? We're hoping to engage in a relationship where you start investing for me. So I was just trying to come up with reasons why people avoid it. And I guess some of it would be just the privacy around maybe mistakes that they've made financially that they don't want to put those on the table.
After people have worked with you for a while, have they kind of confessed? We're so happy we were with you, but we didn't want to because whatever.
Well, it's hard to think of a specific example, but yeah, I mean, in terms of why people might not want to, I think, everybody's got sort of their own motivations. Some may just be, they like whether or not they've made good or financial decisions. They might just not want to disclose their financial situation to anybody else. Some, it could just be pure, they're not comfortable with it, or they're just, lazy in terms of, there's probably a lot of things on their list that they should be doing, but they aren't doing. Or people may, feel like are confident or knowledgeable enough to do it themselves. So, those would be maybe some of the reasons why people
For sure.
might do it. Yeah, I mean, yes, people have, I guess, well, I'd like to think that they've been happy with the service that they've provided, but they were, I can't think of any instances where they called themselves out on not wanting to meet with me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, shame is probably a big driver,
Yeah.
or just family silence around it. Like we don't talk about this anywhere and don't let anything in the public, so they just keep that habit going.
And
Yeah.
and also just fear of, I think there's a lot of society has become slightly paranoid, I would say, in the last little while, right? So just feeling like I'm disclosing all this personal information to someone. And that I kind of leads into the next, kind of a discussion. And I'm just going to say, like, it did take us a bit to land on to land on you. Like, we had other financial advisors prior, like we had a couple others, and we just didn't have the relationship that was as comfortable as what, and I think that can probably go both ways for you as well. You probably, you get it to a certain comfort level with people, but I think that relationship is super, super important. That, I don't know exactly how to how to how to describe it, but I don't know, maybe you have some thoughts on that. The communication and the relationship, to me, is like one of the top reasons why I am happy with the spot that we're in. But,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, happy to hear that that you're happy on your side of things. So, yeah, I think, yeah, personality connection is certainly important. And I think you want to work with somebody that is generally interested in your situation and finding ways and making recommendations that will
Mhm.
make your situation better. I would say, if you met with a financial advisor and after the meeting, if you reflected and said that the advisor was talking for 80% of the meeting, that it's probably not going to be a good, relationship going
Yeah.
forward,
Yeah,
because,
No.
really,
the listening part is very key.
Actually,
yeah,
that's a really good piece of advice. I think that
yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I agree.
you want somebody who is asking questions and then listening and then displaying, some sort of knowledge of your situation, and recommendations that are specific to you and to your current financial plan.
And I also think, and I'm just going by our experience, like working with you, is I really do like when you reach out and say, "Hey, haven't heard from you for a while. Can we set up a meeting?" And then I get an agenda that's very personal to us, with also you saying, "Is there anything else you want to talk about?" Because when you send me that agenda and it's personal to what our situation is, then I know that you've sat there and said, looked at our portfolio or whatever and said, these are the things I really want to make sure are on track or want to understand about their situation. So then, you're not just sending out some, no, let's meet and talk. It's specific. It doesn't waste my time. Like, that I think is also important when you're establishing a relationship, and I mean that's a communication style, right? As well.
Well, and the other thing is like family doctors, when they kind of overload on patients, you kind of figure it out pretty fast as a patient and I'm sure for like you or other independent financial advisors, there comes a saturation point where you can't duplicate yourself any further. So you probably have your cap that you determine, and then things are manageable and relationships don't fall by the wayside, etc. So I don't know. I guess that's just me answering. the
No,
question.
no, but I mean, I don't know. Do those
Like
things?
I think if I had a feeling that the financial advisor was so busy with other clients that I was getting emails or phone calls were getting delayed for 2 weeks or whatever because they were busy, then I would start thinking that was a red flag. But that's not the case, obviously, here. But
Yeah, meaning like to try and be responsive as possible and also as productive as possible. Meaning, I don't want to be although it's great to know your clients on a personal level, I don't want to be a professional visitor where I just
Yes.
show up
Right.
and we just shoot the breeze for a while and sort of don't accomplish anything. So
Right.
it's always good to catch up on where you're at personally, but we need to have goals for our discussions as well. So like
that's why the agendas are really.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's not your time.
And I guess the other thing that I guess I look for in a financial advisor is if all of a sudden something comes up for me and I'm confused or whatever, that I can actually just shoot off an email and get a response rather than thinking, oh, it when he made the comparison to a family doctor, it is true. Like if I have a concern about myself, I've got to make an appointment that might be 3 weeks away. And that's why I mean, this is a whole different whatever. I deal with a naturopath because I can actually text my naturopath and he'll get back to me about something. And that's kind of the way. And I mean, it's not immediate, but it's more immediate than 3 weeks down the road. And I think that's the kind of relationship that I want to have with a person that's kind of got the details of my finances in his pocket, in his or her pocket, right? I want to be able to say, hey, this is happening in the world. Does this impact anything? Right. And I guess, and I think to some degree, we've gotten to the point with you where we trust you to kind of go.
Well, he has a newsletter that I read
Right.
when you send it so that
I mean, it makes us very comfortable to think that you're kind of on top of what's happening in the world financially so that I don't necessarily have to be to the same degree.
Yeah, I would say I would try to, reach out to you or my other clients when something comes up that directly impacts them and try and be proactive and ahead of it rather than them having to come to me and say, hey, I heard about this. How does this impact our plan? So, yeah.
Well, and you have access to statistics and trends and patterns and good historical, patterns, I guess. So, you bring a lot of education and literacy, financial literacy to us, I guess. And I guess that would be another good bonus of having a financial advisor.
Yeah. Yeah. And just staying on top, one of the more common things, I guess, would be, changes to the tax code, which they are things that happen with one of the most frequencies that would require me to be sort of proactively reaching out to clients. So yeah, you kind of want to, like, for example, this summer when they increased the capital gains inclusion rate, you kind of want an advisor that goes and looks through all of their sort of client base to identify people that this may have an impact on, and then make sure that they, are proactively contacting people to say there's something that we need to chat about, outside of our normally scheduled meeting, and just walk through the changes and see if we need to be making any changes to their plan to reflect the changes in the tax code or any other changes that might come up along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that, our kind of goal in having this, this podcast was to encourage people who don't have somebody to consider it, because it has really, for us, it's really actually made all the difference. I know that we would not be where we are financially without someone to help us along the way. I just know that we would not, and I know that there are other people, I'm sure, out there that are the same as us. And yeah, so I guess our goal is just to encourage people to have that initial conversation, and approach it with an open mind, and just see where it takes you, because it's just one of those things that can really make a difference in for your life, for living your best life, which is kind of the theme of what we talk about in this podcast all the time.
Well, yeah, and it's based on your hard work as well. I mean, I can only make the recommendations, but it comes up to you two to sort of implement them as well, or give the okay for me, the things that I can manage on my end to implement those. So, it's a collective relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great. So hopefully anybody who listens to this, if with your permission, I will put kind of in the show notes sort of your contact information, if there was anybody who did want to kind of reach out for a conversation. If
That's local, I guess.
That's local,
Yeah.
right? So I would do that, and
Sure.
and hopefully that somebody who's kind of on the edge or confused. And I think the bottom line that I wanted people to understand is it really doesn't matter where you are financially. Having a conversation with a financial advisor can make a difference.
Yep, I agree with that.
Good. All right. Well, thanks
thank you
for
very
the
much.
conversation. It was good to do this with you, and we hope that you have some chances to relax over the holidays that are coming up. We're looking forward to spending some time with family, so we hope the same for you. And again, thanks again for your time tonight.
No problem. I appreciate you giving the opportunity to chat with you.
Good. All right.
All
Have a
right.
great night. Thanks again.
Okay, thanks. Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye.
Bye.